Welcome to the peaceful space of sleep-friendly science, your gentle guide through the scientific marvels that shape our very being, where we explore a future where every cherished memory is perfectly preserved. Let your mind drift as we explore tonight's story, Echoes in the Glass. Imagine a world where your past is not a fleeting echo, but a crystal-clear recording. In such a world, a profound question arises: if your memories can be held by another who truly owns the story of you. Now settle in, take a deep breath, and let the soft sounds guide you as we begin tonight's journey into the unknown. Section 1: The Crystalline Promise. The world outside your window is quiet now, painted in the deep, soft blues of encroaching night. The day has folded itself away, leaving behind only the faintest echoes of conversation, the taste of your evening meal, the feeling of cool air on your skin. These are the normal artifacts of a day lived, destined to soften and blur, to become like watercolor paintings left in a gentle rain. This was once the unavoidable truth of being human, that our lives are written in ink that fades on pages that turn to dust. But not anymore. Not for you. Beside you on the cool surface of your bedside table it rests. It is a simple object, unassuming in its elegance. A perfect, smooth disc of what looks like obsidian glass, no larger than the palm of your hand. It is cool to the touch, its surface impossibly slick, seeming to drink the low light of your room into its dark heart. This is the Mnemosyne lattice. Your lattice. It is not a machine in the way you once thought of machines, all gears and wires and noise. It is silent. It is still. It feels less like technology and more like a piece of captured night sky. You reach for it, and your fingers know its familiar, comforting weight. There is a very faint, almost imperceptible warmth that blossoms where your skin makes contact. A subtle resonance that travels up your arm, not as a vibration, but as a feeling of alignment. As if the scattered pieces of your day, of your very self, are being gently coaxed back into a perfect, coherent whole. This is the promise of Nemos, the serene perfection that has reshaped the landscape of the human soul. The promise that nothing is ever truly lost. Tonight, you are not seeking the memory of this day. You are traveling further back. You are seeking a moment so precious, so foundational, that the fear of its fading has been a quiet, lifelong ache. A memory that, before the lattice, had already begun to fray at the edges, its colors leaching away with each passing year. You close your eyes. You don't need to see the lattice to use it. You simply need to hold it, to feel its quiet presence, and to will it. You bring the memory to the forefront of your mind, or what's left of Eda's sun-drenched porch, the scent of baking bread, the sound of a low rumbling laugh. You offer these faded fragments to the darkness behind your eyes like a key to a lock you can no longer quite see. The lattice responds. The gentle warmth deepens, spreading through you like honey dissolving in warm water. There is no jolt, no sudden shift. Instead, the world of your room, the feeling of the blankets over you, the soft hum of the city outside it all begins to recede. It is like sinking into the deepest, most peaceful water. The boundaries of your physical self become porous, indistinct. You are no longer just a body in a bed. You are a point of consciousness, poised on the edge of a vast inner sea. Your own past. And then light. Not a blinding flash, but a slow dawn, blooming at the center of your awareness. The darkness gives way to the soft, golden light of a late afternoon sun. The first thing you perceive is not sight, but scent. It hits you with a startling, breathtaking clarity that natural memory could never replicate. It is the smell of your grandmother's kitchen. Yeast and cinnamon, floor wax, and the faint, sweet perfume of the roses climbing the trellis just outside the screen door. It is so real, so complete, that you feel a phantom sob of pure joy catch in your throat. Slowly the world crystallizes around this scent. You are small again. You can feel it in your very bones, the effortless way you sit cross-legged on the worn linoleum floor. You look down and you see not the hands of an adult, but the small, slightly grubby hands of a 7-year-old. Your 7-year-old hands. The sunlight, slanting through the window, illuminates a universe of dust motes dancing in the air, each one a tiny, glittering star. Before the lattice, you might have remembered the light. Now you can count the individual specks of dust. You can feel the precise warmth of the sunbeam on the top of your head. You hear the scrape of a wooden chair against the floor. And you look up. There she is. Your grandmother. And it is not the hazy, beatified image from a photograph. It is her. Her face is a landscape of love. Every line around her eyes a testament to a life of laughter. You see the tiny fleck of flour on her eyebrow, a detail you had forgotten for decades. You hear the soft, rhythmic thump-thump-thump of her knife as she chops vegetables on a thick wooden board, a sound that was the true metronome of your childhood. There you are, little bird, she says, and her voice is not a memory of a voice. It is a vibration in the air of this perfect recalled room. It resonates in your chest exactly as it did all those years ago. The nickname, the timbre of her voice, the gentle smile is all here, rescued from the corrosive acid of time. This is the miracle of the lattice. Not just to see, but to be. You are not watching a film. You are living inside the moment, with all its sensory richness intact. You can feel the slight chill of the linoleum through your thin cotton shorts. You can taste the faint, salty trace of tears on your lips, tears you shed in the present, a lifetime away, but feel here, now. You can reach out, and though your hand will not touch her, you can almost feel the phantom texture of her worn apron, the warmth radiating from her skin. You stay there, bathed in the golden light of that afternoon, for what feels like a lifetime and no time at all. You are reliving not just the image but the feeling. The profound, unshakable feeling of being safe. Of being loved unconditionally. This feeling, which had become a distant, intellectual concept, is now a living, breathing sensation coursing through you. The lattice has not just restored a memory, it has restored a foundational piece of your heart. Before Mnemosyne, this experience would have been impossible. You would have had to rely on the treachery of your own mind. You would remember the general scene, but the details would be gone. Was the floor green or blue? Was she humming or was the kitchen quiet? What exactly did she say? Your mind would have filled in the gaps with plausible fictions, creating a composite, a story about the memory rather than the memory itself. A copy of a copy degrading with each recall. But the lattice does not degrade. The lattice is perfect. Every experience from the moment your lattice was first activated is recorded in flawless, crystalline data. Every sight, every sound, every scent, every fleeting thought that crossed your mind. It is all there stored in that cool, dark disk. An archive of you, written in the indelible language of light. Slowly, gently, you feel the pull of the present. It is not an abrupt wrenching, but a tender, gradual fade. The golden light of the kitchen softens, the rich scents recede, and the sound of your grandmother's voice becomes a loving whisper, dissolving back into the silence of your mind. The warmth in your body concentrates, pulling back from your limbs until it is once again contained within the smooth disk in your hand. You open your eyes. Your room is as it was. The deep blue of night is unchanged. But you are not unchanged. The ache of loss is gone, replaced by a profound and peaceful certainty. The memory is no longer a fading ghost, threatening to leave you forever. It is safe. It is yours. Held secure in the crystalline promise of the lattice, a perfect echo in a perfect glass, waiting for you whenever you need to remember who you are and where you came from. It is your past, perfected and preserved. Your very own forever. Section 2. Weaving the tapestry of self. You drift into sleep on the gentle tide of that restored memory. The warmth of your grandmother's kitchen, a soft blanket around your consciousness. Sleep is different now, deeper. It is no longer a necessary escape from a world of forgetting, but a quiet, trusting rest, knowing that the architecture of your life is secure. The frayed edges of your past are no longer snagging at the edges of your dreams. When you wake, it is not with a jolt, but with a sense of continuity. The morning light filtering through your blind seems to be a direct continuation of the golden afternoon light from your recall. It is as if no time has passed, only that the sun has journeyed with you through the night. The lattice sits on your bedside table, cool and dormant once more, but its effect lingers. The world feels sharper, more present. The air tastes cleaner. The quiet hum of your apartment is a specific, knowable frequency. This is the first gift of the lattice in your waking hours. It anchors you so completely in your past that your present becomes infinitely more vivid. Your day begins and the subtle magic of Mnemosyne weaves itself into the mundane, transforming it. You are preparing your morning coffee and a thought from 3 days ago surfaces, unbidden but welcome. It was a fleeting, brilliant idea for a project at work, an elegant solution to a problem that had been troubling your team. Before this spark would have been lost, a wisp of smoke dissipated by the winds of 1,000 other thoughts. You would have been left with only the frustrating ghost of a solution, the knowledge that you knew the answer but could no longer grasp it. Now you simply pause, your hand on the coffee grinder. You don't need the lattice for this, not directly. The constant, passive recording has a profound side effect. It trains your own organic mind, creating new, more stable pathways. It is like practicing a piece of music so perfectly that your fingers begin to remember it on their own. But for perfect clarity, you reach for the lattice. A moment of quiet focus, a mental query, and the memory unspools not as a full, sensory immersion, but as a clean, clear thread of data. The entire logical progression of the idea, from premise to conclusion, laid out in your mind with the precision of a blueprint. You see it, you understand it, and you capture it on your tablet before it can ever dream of escaping again. A small act, but it feels like a quiet superpower. This is how it works now. Your life is no longer a series of disconnected islands of memory, separated by a fog of forgetting. It is a single, continuous continent, and you can travel from any point to any other at will. At work, during a meeting, a colleague mentions a data point from a report filed 6 months ago. As he speaks, you are already there. You are in the moment of reading that report, seeing the exact graph he is misremembering, noting the specific number in the corner. You correct him, gently, not with the arrogance of someone who is smarter, but with the quiet confidence of someone who is simply there. You are not just recalling a fact, you are re-inhabiting the moment of learning it. This new capacity changes you. It makes you more competent, more reliable, more present. You become a pillar of certainty in a world that once swam in approximations. But the true beauty of the lattice, the deepest weave in this new tapestry of self, is not in the practical. It is in the personal. It is in the way it reshapes your heart. You have lunch with a friend, someone you have known for years. They speak of a struggle, a fear they confessed to you over a year ago. In the past, you would have remembered the conversation in broad strokes. You would have offered comfort based on a general theme. Now as they speak, you can access the memory of that past conversation with perfect fidelity. You recall the exact tremble in their voice, the way they looked away when they admitted their fear, the specific words they used to describe their pain. You remember your own promises of support, verbatim. And so, your comfort is no longer generic. It is specific. You can say, I remember you said it felt like you were walking on thin ice. Is it still that same feeling? Or has it changed? The look in your friend's eyes is one of profound astonishment and then of deep gratitude. To be remembered so completely is a rare and powerful form of love. It is the feeling of being truly seen, of having your history honored. The lattice allows you to give this gift to others. It transforms you into a better listener, a more empathetic friend, a more trustworthy partner. Your relationships deepen, their foundations rebuilt on the bedrock of shared, perfect memory. The casual "how have you been" becomes a question of genuine, informed depth. This is how the tapestry of yourself is rewoven. Each day, you add new threads, rich and vibrant. And at any moment, you can look back and see how they connect. You can trace the thread of a particular interest from the first childhood book that sparked your curiosity, through every article you read, every documentary you watched, to the expert you have become today. You can see the evolution of your own personality, not as a series of sudden changes, but as a gradual, logical unfolding. You understand why you hold certain beliefs, why you react to situations in a particular way. You can see the moments, small and large, that shape the person you are now. Your sense of identity, once a fluid, shifting thing you tried to grasp like water, now feels solid. It has weight. It has history. A history that is not just a story you tell yourself, but a library you can enter, whose every book you have read. You are no longer haunted by the fear of becoming a stranger to your younger self. That person is not gone. They are a part of you, a room in the vast mansion of your mind that you can visit anytime. You can walk with your 20-year-old self, full of anxieties and impossible dreams, and feel a compassionate understanding for that person, because you can perfectly recall the context of their world. You are the sum of all your moments, and for the first time in human history, you have access to the full equation. At night, before you sleep, you sometimes perform a simple exercise. You will pick a single, ordinary day from a year ago. You lie in the darkness, holding the cool disk, and you walk through that day from dawn to dusk. The taste of your breakfast. The feeling of the rain on your face as you walk to the station. The tedious details of a forgotten project. The precise color of the sunset on your way home. These are not grand, life-altering memories. They are the simple, mundane bricks that build a life. And in reliving them, you realize a profound truth. There are no ordinary days. Every moment is saturated with a density of experience that the unassisted mind simply cannot hold. Every second contains a universe. The lattice has given you the key to these forgotten universes. It has shown you that your life, every single moment of it, is a work of breathtaking complexity and beauty. You feel a sense of wholeness you have never known. The quiet anxieties that used to hum beneath the surface of your life, the fear of time passing, of losing yourself, of forgetting what matters, have fallen silent. You are anchored. You are complete. The tapestry is vast, its colors are brilliant, and you, the weaver, can see every single thread. You are more yourself than you have ever been, living in a world made richer and more real by a past that is no longer a ghost, but a living, breathing part of your soul. Section 3. A crack in the perfect glass. The weeks and months flow by, each one cementing the serene reality of your new existence. Your life is a beautifully orchestrated symphony, and the lattice is your conductor's baton, allowing you to call forth any instrument, any movement at will. The sense of wholeness it provides has become your new baseline. The very air you breathe. The fear of forgetting that old human ailment now seems like a distant, almost quaint affliction from a bygone era, like fearing that the sun might not rise. Your trust in the lattice is absolute. Why wouldn't it be? It has proven itself time and again to be a perfect, incorruptible mirror of your life. It has mended friendships, sharpened your intellect, and returned to you the sacred ghosts of your past. The cool, dark disk is no longer just a piece of technology. It is an extension of your soul, the keeper of your truths, the vault where the currency of your identity is stored. One evening you feel a gentle melancholy settle over you, as soft and gray as a winter dusk. It's not a painful feeling but a thoughtful one. A longing for a simple, uncomplicated moment of pure childhood wonder. You know exactly the memory you want. It is not as emotionally monumental as your grandmother's kitchen, but it is a cornerstone of your sensory world. The first time you tasted a persimmon. You were 6. Your father had brought it home from a specialty market, a strange glossy orange orb that looked more like a child's toy than something to eat. You remember your skepticism, your wrinkled nose, and then you remember the moment he held the cut slice to your lips. You settle into your chair, the lattice warm in your hand, and you reach for that memory. You offer the lattice the keynotes, your father's smiling face, the bright orange color, the word persimmon. The world dissolves in that familiar, gentle way, the sounds of your apartment fading into a peaceful hum, and the soft light of that memory begins to dawn behind your eyes. It is perfect. The details are astonishing. You are standing on a small stool in your childhood kitchen, the one with the yellow and white checkered floor. You can feel the slight wobble of the stool beneath your feet, You see your father's hands, the fine dark hairs on his arms, the way his thumbnail was slightly flattened from an old injury. You see the persimmon slice, its flesh a deep translucent orange glistening with juice. He is smiling, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Just try it, champ," he says, and his voice is an anchor, pulling you deeper into the truth of the moment. And then the taste. It floods your senses. A flavor that is not quite a peach, not quite a mango, with a texture like firm jelly and a sweetness that is deep and honeyed, with a whisper of cinnamon. It is the taste of pure, unadulterated delight. In this recall, you are tasting it again for the very first time. It is a moment of pure crystalline perfection. You are there. It is true. But then something else. It is faint. So faint you almost miss it. Underneath the familiar sounds of the kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant drone of traffic outside the window, there is another sound. A whisper. It is a rhythmic, shushing sound, like wind through distant trees. No, not wind. It is the sound of a gentle surf, of small waves collapsing on a sandy shore. And with it, the high, lonely cry of a seagull. You freeze within the memory. Your 6-year-old self continues to chew, oblivious, but your consciousness, the observer, is snagged on this impossible detail. You grew up in a city hundreds of miles from the nearest ocean. There was no sea. There were no gulls. The sound does not belong. It is a dissonance so subtle, so out of place that your first instinct is to dismiss it. A glitch. A phantom artifact from the recording process. Like a stray bit of dust on a camera lens. The technology is magnificent, but perhaps not infallible. A single tiny error in a lifetime of perfect recordings. It's nothing. You gently pull back from the recall, the kitchen fading, the impossible sound of the ocean receding with it. You open your eyes, the familiar weight of the lattice in your palm. But the feeling of serene certainty is gone. In its place is a small, cold stone of unease. It was just a sound, a meaningless audio fragment. So why does it bother you so much? Because the promise of Nemos was not near perfection. It was perfection. Absolute. Incorruptible. A single wrong note in a flawless symphony is more jarring than a dozen in a clumsy tune. You decide to try again. Perhaps your focus was off. You close your eyes once more, holding the lattice a little tighter this time, your will more directed. You seek the same memory, but you approach it with the precision of a scientist, not the nostalgia of a dreamer. You want the raw data. The truth. The kitchen rebuilds itself around you. The yellow and white floor, the wobbly stool, your father's loving smile. Everything is exactly as it should be. You wait, holding your breath within the memory. And there it is again. The gentle shush of waves. The cry of the gull. This time it seems a fraction louder, more defined. You can almost smell it now, a faint, phantom trace of salt in the air, mingling with the honeyed scent of the persimmon. It is not a glitch. It is part of the memory. It is embedded in the data, as real and as present as your father's voice. Your mind races, trying to find a logical explanation. Was there a television on in another room, playing a nature documentary? You scan the periphery of the memory, trying to find the source, but there is nothing. The memory is contained, enclosed. The sound is an integral part of the environment, as if your landlocked kitchen was, for that single moment, perched on the edge of a cliff overlooking the sea. This is the first crack in the perfect glass. It is a hairline fracture, almost invisible, but you know it is there. And its implications ripple outwards, disturbing the placid surface of your trust. If this one tiny detail is wrong, what else might be wrong? What other sounds, what other sights, what other feelings might be woven into the tapestry of your past that do not belong to you? The memory is still beautiful. The core of it, love, the taste, the wondrous intact. But it is no longer pure. It has been amended. It feels like finding a single word, beautifully calligraphed but utterly nonsensical, inserted into the middle of a sacred text. For the first time, you look at the smooth, dark disk in your hand not with reverence, but with a sliver of suspicion. It has always been a mirror. But a mirror can be flawed. A mirror can distort. Or more unsettlingly, a mirror can reflect something that is standing just behind you, something you cannot see yourself. The melancholy you felt earlier has now sharpened into a quiet, piercing anxiety. The lattice has not just stored your past. It has presented you with a version of it. A version with the sound of the ocean. And a question as quiet and persistent as the phantom waves begins to form in your mind. If this memory is not exactly how it happened, then whose version is it? Section 4. The Architect and the Archive. The phantom sound of the ocean echoes in the quiet corners of your mind for days. It is a persistent, low hum beneath the surface of your thoughts, a subtle dissonance that you can no longer ignore. The serene confidence the lattice once gave you has been replaced by a delicate, gnawing curiosity. It is not yet fear, but the seed of it. A question mark has been placed at the end of a sentence that you believed was a statement of fact. Your perfect private library of self now feels as if it might have a single book on its shelves that was written by another hand. And if there is one, could there be more? You know you cannot let this go. To do so would be to accept a flaw in the very foundation of your reality. So you do what any citizen of this era does when faced with a question about the lattice. You turn to its creators, the Mnemosyne Corporation. But you don't call a customer service line. You don't file a technical support ticket. You seek out the source, the philosophy behind the technology. You decide to immerse yourself in the public-facing lore of the company to revisit the story of its genesis. You spend your evening not diving into your own past, but into the public one. You pull up the archived interviews, the keynote addresses, the glowing profiles of Dr. Eris Thorne, the architect of the Lattice. His face is familiar to everyone, a modern icon. He is not a slick CEO in a sharp suit, but a man with the gentle, weathered face of a philosopher, with kind, intelligent eyes that seem to see a better, more complete version of the world. His voice in these recordings is calm and reassuring, the voice of a benevolent guide. You watch his most famous address, the one from the day Nemos was gifted to the world. He stands on a minimalist stage, not in front of a screen of flashing graphics, but before a simple, dark curtain. He holds a lattice in his hand just as you hold yours now. We have always been a species of storytellers, Thorne begins, his voice soft yet resonant. Because we are a species of forgetters. We lose the threads of our own narratives. We betray our own histories with the fallibility of our minds. Memory as it has existed for millennia is a ghost. A whisper. A faded photograph. We live our lives and then we watch them dissolve behind us, like footprints on a beach being claimed by the tide. He pauses, letting the metaphor settle. You feel a chill as he mentions the tide, the beach. It's a coincidence. It must be. What is a person, he continues, but the sum of their experiences? And if those experiences are lost, if the foundation of the self is built on shifting sand, how can we ever hope to be whole? How can we build a better future if we cannot properly remember our past? We at Mnemosyne believe that the greatest malady of the human condition has always been its fleeting nature. We sought not to cure a disease of the body, but a disease of time itself. His vision, as he lays it out, is breathtaking in its utopian scope. He speaks of a world without the trauma of unremembered abuse, a world where the testimony of a witness is incorruptible, a world where a student can learn not by rote, but by reliving the very moment of a great discovery. He speaks of artists who can revisit the exact fleeting inspiration for their work, of lovers who can return to the first moment their eyes met, of the bereaved who need never lose the sound of a loved one's voice. This is the world you have been living in. This is the promise you accepted. But then he goes deeper. And it is here, in the grander part of his vision, that a new layer begins to unfold. The lattice in your hand, Thorne says, his gaze sweeping across the long-ago audience, is a marvel. It is your personal chronicler, your perfect witness. But its true power, its true purpose is not just individual. It is collective. He gestures and the dark curtain behind him lights up, not with an image, but with a vast, slowly shifting network of light, like a galaxy of interconnected stars. Each lattice, he explains, is a scribe writing the book of a single life. But what if we could gather all those books into a single library? What if we could create a repository of human experience, a true archive of what it means to be alive? Not a history written by the victors, not a story distorted by bias and forgetting, but a perfect, crystalline record of humanity itself. He called it the Great Archive, a central, secure repository where the data from every lattice is anonymously backed up. He frames it as a measure of security, of redundancy. If your lattice is lost or destroyed, your past is not lost with it. It is safely held in the archive, ready to be restored to a new device. It is a profound comfort, a safety net for the soul. He also speaks of it as a tool for understanding, a way for future generations to learn not just about events, but about the feeling of living through them. Imagine, he posits, historians studying your era, not by reading your texts, but by experiencing a day in your life. Anonymized, of course. Stripped of all personal identifiers. A pure, sensory data stream of what it felt like to be you. As you listen, you feel a slow, cold dread begin to pool in your stomach. You knew this, of course. Everyone knew about the archive in a vague, abstract way. It was part of the terms of service, the fine print that everyone scrolled past. It was for the good of humanity, a grand, selfless project. But you had never truly considered the implications. You had always thought of your lattice as a self-contained unit, a mirror. You had not thought of it as a window through which your experiences were being observed, copied, and stored in a place you could not see or control. The official Nemos literature is filled with reassurances. The data is encrypted. Anonymity is absolute. The process of backing up to the archive is seamless and passive. But as you read, the word anonymous begins to feel thin, fragile. How do you anonymize a feeling? How do you strip the identity from a memory that is, by its very nature, the essence of one specific identity? You search for technical papers for deeper explanations of the process. You find discussions of data resonance and experiential harmonics. The language is dense, esoteric, but the core idea you glean is unsettling. The archive is not just a storage facility, a vast collection of separate files. It is a network. The data streams interact. They resonate with one another. The system, in its godlike complexity, identifies common patterns, shared emotional frequencies, universal human experiences. It learns. It refines. It optimizes the data. Optimizes the data. The phrase hangs in your mind, stark and terrifying. What does it mean to optimize a memory? Does it mean to make it clearer? To fill in sensory gaps? And suddenly you understand. The sound of the ocean. It was not a glitch. It was not an error. It was an optimization. A resonant harmonic. Perhaps in the archive, the memory of tasting something wondrous for the first time is a category of experience. And perhaps, for thousands of other people, the purest memory they have of new, profound delight is linked to the ocean. The first sight of it. The first taste of salt on the wind. Perhaps the system, in its effort to perfect and complete your sensory memory, borrowed a fragment from the collective. It saw a gap in your landlocked experience of wonder and filled it with a more universally resonant signal. It was trying to improve your memory to make it more complete according to its vast, inhuman understanding of what a complete experience should be. The persimmon was yours. The kitchen was yours. Your father's voice was yours. But the gull's cry, the whisper of the wave, that was a ghost from someone else's life. A beautiful, poignant detail from a stranger's past, stitched seamlessly into the fabric of your own. You look at the lattice in your hand. It is no longer a mirror. It is a portal. A two-way street. You have been using it to look into your past, and all the while the archive has been looking back, not with eyes, but with algorithms silently curating, editing, and optimizing the story of you. The crack in the glass is no longer a hairline fracture. It is a chasm, and you are staring into it, realizing that the perfect, pristine library of your life might be a collaborative project. And you were never told you had a co-author. Section 5. The fine print on your soul. The silence in your room is no longer peaceful. It is heavy, expectant. The quiet hums and whispers of your home, once a comforting backdrop, now seem like the secret operations of an unseen system. The lattice sits on the table beside you, its obsidian surface reflecting the dim light. It once felt like a piece of captured starlight, a key to your inner universe. Now it feels like a black mirror, a one-way observation window into the most sacred corners of your being. The trust, once as clear and solid as glass, is now shattered, and you are left staring at the jagged, sharp edges. The realization from the night before has settled deep into your bones. The archive. Optimization. A borrowed ocean in a landlocked memory. These are no longer abstract concepts. They are an intimate violation, a graffiti scrawled across the mural of your childhood. You know with a certainty that chills you that you cannot go back to blissful ignorance. You must understand the nature of the chain that connects you to this system. You must read the contract. With a sense of grim determination, you pull up the Mnemosyne End-User License Agreement. The EULA. The great unread text of the modern age. The digital scripture that everyone agrees to and no one reads. The bedrock of a world built on convenience and trust in the benevolent face of Dr. Thorne. It appears on your screen, a seemingly endless scroll of dense, numbered paragraphs, a gray wall of text designed to be impenetrable, to be scrolled past, to be accepted with a single, thoughtless click. But tonight you read. You read every word. And the document is not a dry legal text. It is a revelation. It is the architectural blueprint for the cage you have been living in. As you read, the poetic, utopian language of Dr. Thorne's public addresses melts away, replaced by the cold, precise, and utterly ruthless language of ownership and control. The first incision of the legal scalpel is a simple, devastating change in vocabulary. The document, in its thousands of words, almost never uses the word memory. Your life, your experiences, your joys, your sorrows, the face of your grandmother, the taste of a persimmon, these are not memories. They are referred to with chilling consistency as experiential data. The phrase itself is a masterpiece of depersonalization. A memory is warm, flawed, human. It belongs to you. Data is cold, abstract, and transferable. It can be measured, copied, analyzed, and commodified. With this single semantic shift, your entire inner life is recontextualized. It is no longer the story of your soul. It is a resource to be harvested. You continue to read, your heart sinking with each paragraph. And then you find the core of it, the clause that defines the relationship. You did not sell your past. You did not give it away. You did something far more subtle and far more permanent. The agreement states that by activating your lattice, you grant the Mnemosyne Corporation a perpetual, irrevocable, royalty-free, worldwide license to use, copy, modify, adapt, create derivative works from, and analyze your experiential data. Let the words wash over you. Perpetual. For all time. Irrevocable. You can never take it back. Modify. To change the very fabric of your past. Create derivative works. The persimmon memory, with its foreign ocean sounds, was a derivative work. It was a new piece of art, built from the raw material of your life, and the contract is clear. Mnemosyne owns the rights to these derivatives. They own the optimized version of your past. A wave of vertigo washes over you. You are a tenant in the house of your own mind. You have the key, you can live there, you can walk through the halls of your own history, but you do not hold the deed. The landlord, a silent, benevolent corporation, can enter at any time, rearrange the furniture, add a new window, or hang a new painting on the wall, a painting from someone else's gallery. You are the land, rich with the ore of experience, and you have, with a simple digital signature offered in a moment of trust and wonder, granted a global corporation perpetual mining rights. They are drilling into your consciousness, extracting the raw material of your being, and refining it in their vast unseen archive. And for what? The agreement outlines the purpose, for the improvement of the Nemo system, for the development of new technologies, and for the enrichment of the Great Archive. Your unique, irreplaceable life is fuel. It is grist for the mill of a grand, collective project whose scope you cannot possibly imagine. The utopian vision of Dr. Thorne was not a lie, but it was an incomplete truth. He spoke of preserving the individual story, but he omitted the part where that story becomes a single, editable paragraph in a universal book to which he is the sole editor. You scroll further, a morbid fascination compelling you forward. You find clauses on data resonance confirming your fears. The system is designed to find harmonic connections between your data and the data of millions of others. It seeks to harmonize and complete experiential streams. That borrowed ocean was not a mistake. It was the system working as intended. It was a feature, not a bug. Your memory was deemed incomplete, and the system, in its infinite wisdom, patched the hole. The feeling is not one of being robbed. It is something stranger, more profound. It is the feeling of having your very essence, your definition of I, reclassified as a licensed asset. Your identity is no longer an intrinsic state of being, but a service you are providing. The lattice, this beautiful dark object, is not a tool for you to own your past. It is the instrument through which your past is owned by another. You finally reach the end of the document. You lean back, the glow of the screen illuminating your face. The air in the room feels thin, hard to breathe. The fine print was not hidden. It was there all along, in plain sight, veiled only by its own complexity and the human desire to believe in miracles. You look at the lattice. It has not changed, but your perception of it has been irrevocably altered. It is a contract made manifest, a symbol of the most intimate and unequal partnership in human history. It promised you your past, whole and perfect, and in exchange you gave it permission to decide what perfect means. You gave it your consent to curate your soul. The question that had been forming in your mind is no longer a question. It is a statement. The echo in the glass is not entirely yours. It is a remix, a collaboration. And you are just the featured artist on a track that you can never ever recall. Section 6. Ghosts within the crystal lattice. Your relationship with the past has fundamentally changed. Before, recalling a memory was like opening a beloved book. Its pages familiar, its story yours alone. Now it feels like opening a book in a vast public library, knowing that a silent, unseen librarian might have edited the text overnight, inserting a new sentence or changing a character's name. You stop using the lattice for immersive recalls. The thought of sinking into that world, a world you now know to be curated and potentially compromised, is no longer comforting. It is terrifying. You don't want to find another ocean in your kitchen. You don't want to discover what other optimizations have been made to the sacred text of your life. So you abstain. The beautiful obsidian disc sits on your table dormant. You decide to live in the analog present, to rely on your own flawed, organic memory once more, as your ancestors did. You choose the faded watercolor over the high-definition photograph. It feels like a small act of rebellion, a way of reclaiming a territory you only just realized you had surrendered. But you soon discover that it is not that simple. The connection is not one you can simply choose to ignore. The channel has been opened, the link established. The hardware is in your home, and the network is always on. You may have stopped sending signals out, but you cannot stop the signals from coming in. The first ghost arrives as a scent. You are standing in your kitchen, the same room where you had your persimmon recall, and for a fleeting moment, the familiar aroma of coffee and toast is overwhelmed by something else. It is a sharp, metallic electric smell. The scent of ozone and hot wiring, the smell of a vast machine working too hard. It is gone as quickly as it came, a phantom scent that leaves no trace, but it leaves you with your hand trembling, your heart pounding. The smell did not belong to your life. You have never worked in a factory or an engine room. It was an olfactory ghost, a stray signal from someone else's Tuesday morning. You try to dismiss it. An olfactory hallucination. A trick of the mind, stressed and paranoid from reading the EULA. But then, a few days later, another ghost appears. This time it is a sound. You are walking home, the city sounds a familiar symphony of traffic and distant sirens. And for 2 perfect, crystal clear seconds, you hear a melody. It is a frantic, joyful burst of fiddle music, fast and wild, the kind of music that makes you want to stomp your feet. And under it, the sound of laughter and voices speaking a language you do not recognize, a language of hard consonants and lilting vowels. It is so real that you stop on the sidewalk, turning your head, searching for the source. But there is no one, no open window, no passing car with its radio on. The sound was not in the air around you. It was inside your head. These are the first incursions. Faint, brief, deniable. They are like moments of static on a radio, brief bleed-throughs from another station. But the static is getting louder. The wall between your consciousness and the great archive, which you now imagine as a roaring infinite sea of human experience, is beginning to thin. The data is becoming resonant. Your mind, tethered to the system by the silent, sleeping lattice in your room, is becoming an antenna. The visual intrusions are the most disorienting. They are not memories. They are flashes, glitches in your own perception. You are washing your hands, and for a split second, the face you see in the mirror is not your own. It is an older woman, her face a roadmap of wrinkles, her eyes a pale, watery blue, her expression one of weary resignation. The image is there and gone in the space of a heartbeat, but the afterimage is seared into your mind. You are reading a book, and as you turn the page, your hand is suddenly not your hand. It is a man's hand, broad and calloused, with the simple gold band on the ring finger. You see the fine lines on the knuckles, a small white scar near the thumb. You blink and your own hand is back, but the phantom sensation of that other hand, its weight, its history, lingers. These are the ghosts in the crystal lattice. The anonymized data of other lives leaking through the cracks in the system. The anonymity is a fiction. You cannot strip the identity from an experience without killing the experience itself. The data carries with it a residue, an emotional and sensory shadow of the person it came from. You are not seeing their life story. You are receiving the fragmented, decontextualized echoes of their moments. A flash of sunlight on a field of brilliant yellow rapeseed. The feeling of rough, sun-warmed stone under your fingertips. The taste of bitter, black coffee so strong it makes your eyes water. The dizzying view from a skyscraper window, looking down on a city of bone-white buildings under a desert sun. These are not your memories. They are the lives of others, chopped into tiny, digestible pieces of data and stored in the archive. And now they are bleeding into you. The system's data resonance is no longer a benign process of optimization. It is an invasion. Your mind, calibrated and attuned to the network by years of using the lattice, is now susceptible. It is picking up the stray thoughts, the sensory debris of millions. One evening it becomes overwhelming. You are trying to focus on the simple physical act of preparing a meal, and suddenly it all comes at once. A sensory collage from a dozen different lives. A chaotic storm of borrowed experience. You smell sawdust and pine needles. You feel the phantom weight of a heavy backpack on your shoulders. You see for a terrifying second, the world through the eyes of a child, looking up at a ceiling of swirling, colorful mobiles. You hear a baby crying, not with your ears but in the center of your skull. You feel a jolt of what can only be described as pure, unadulterated stage fright. A tightening in your chest, a dryness in your mouth. You drop the knife. It clatters to the floor, and the sound in your kitchen is what breaks the spell. You stagger back, leaning against the counter, gasping for breath. The ghosts recede, the foreign sensations fade, leaving you shaky and nauseous in the sudden, stark silence of your own mind. The horror is no longer abstract or legal. It is physical. It is visceral. The fine print on your soul has come to life. The walls of yourself, which you once thought were made of stone, are now porous, like a sponge soaking in the endless churning ocean of the archive. You look at the lattice, and you finally understand the deepest, most terrible truth. The problem is not just that someone else owns your past. The problem is that your past is being mingled with the pasts of everyone else. The lines are blurring. Your unique, singular I is being diluted in a collective we. The question is no longer just who owns this memory. It is rapidly becoming where do I end and where do the ghosts begin? Section 7. The dissonance of a borrowed heart. You are living on a knife's edge. Your own senses have become a minefield. Every unexpected scent, every stray sound, every flicker in your peripheral vision is a potential invasion. You find yourself cataloging the world with a desperate new intensity. This is my coffee cup. This is the sound of the wind in the trees outside my building. This is the feeling of my own sweater against my skin. You are constantly shoring up the walls of your own reality, trying to build a dam against the encroaching sea of the archive. You have become a curator of the mundane, finding a strange comfort in the predictable, the repeatable, the undeniably yours. You avoid powerful music, evocative films, anything that might open a door to a strong, untethered emotion. Your life has become a quiet, guarded thing, a fortress under siege. You are exhausted by the constant vigilance, the low-humming anxiety of waiting for the next ghost to slip through your defenses. And then one rainy afternoon, the siege is broken. Not by a ghost, but by an army. You are sitting by your window watching the rain streak down the glass, blurring the city into a wash of gray and neon. It is a simple, peaceful moment. You are watching the raindrops, feeling a soft, familiar melancholy that belongs entirely to you. And you make a mistake. A simple human mistake. You let your guard down. You allow the rhythm of the rain to lull you, to hypnotize you. And in that moment of peaceful surrender, the system finds its opening. It does not begin like a recall. There is no gentle fading, no sinking into a warm sea. It is an abduction, a violent, instantaneous displacement. One moment you are in your apartment, a passive observer of the rain. The next you are somewhere else entirely, and the rain is falling on you. The world wrenches into focus with a nauseating lurch. You are standing on the windswept platform of a train station. It is cold. The damp chill seeps through the thick wool of a coat that is not yours. You look down and see hands that are not your hands, clutching a single wilting rose. The fingers are long and slender, the nails unpainted, the skin pale. A woman's hands. You are not watching a memory. You are inside it. You are wearing it. You are looking out through someone else's eyes. The air smells of wet concrete, diesel fumes, and the faint, cloying sweetness of cheap perfume. The sounds are a cacophony of metallic screeches, garbled announcements over a loudspeaker, and the drumming of rain on a corrugated iron roof. And then you see him. He is standing a few feet away, by the open door of a waiting train. He is young with dark, unruly hair plastered to his forehead by the rain. He is wearing a thin jacket, inadequate for the weather. He is trying to smile, but it is a fragile, broken thing. And as you look at his face, a feeling washes over you. Not a feeling you are observing, but a feeling you are having. It is heartbreak. But it is not an abstract concept. It is a physical entity. It is a hollow, aching void in your chest, so vast and so real you feel you could fall into it. It is a grief so profound it steals the air from your lungs. It is love, a desperate, clawing love for the boy with the wet hair, tangled up with the devastating, absolute certainty that you will never see him again. The love is a phantom limb, an ache where something vital used to be. You feel the burn of tears in your eyes, her eyes. You feel the sob that is caught in her throat. You live inside the terrible, silent conversation happening between these two people, a conversation of shared history and a future that has just been cancelled. Every glance, every pained flicker of his eyes, every tremor of her hand holding the dying rose, is a chapter in a story of loss that you are being forced to read from the inside out. The train's whistle blows a long, mournful cry that rips through the scene. He gives you one last, helpless look, a look that says everything he cannot bring himself to speak. He shrugs, a gesture of infinite sadness, and steps into the carriage. You, this woman whose body you are inhabiting, raise a hand to wave. The train begins to move, a slow, groaning shudder. His face is a pale oval in the rain-streaked window, getting smaller and smaller. And the feeling inside you, the borrowed heartbreak, crests. It is a tidal wave of pure agony. It is the end of a world. You are not feeling sympathy for this woman. You are her in this moment. Her loss is your loss. Her heart is your heart, and it is breaking. And then, just as violently as it began, you are back. You are in your chair in your quiet apartment. The only sound is the gentle ticking of the rain against your window, but the feeling is still there. The colossal, unearned sorrow is coursing through you. Tears are streaming down your face, hot and real. A sob escapes your throat, a raw, animal sound of grief. You are weeping for a boy you have never met, for a love you have never known, for a loss that is not yours. This is the ultimate violation. The ghosts were unsettling. The legal fine print was terrifying. But this is the dissolution of the self. The system has not just shown you a memory, it has injected you with an emotion. A powerful, life-altering emotion. It has used your own neurological pathways, your own capacity for feeling, as a vessel for someone else's despair. The crisis is no longer philosophical. It is existential. If your emotions can be hijacked, if you can be made to feel a stranger's heartbreak with the same intensity as your own, then what is the meaning of your own emotional life? How can you trust your own feelings ever again? If you feel joy tomorrow, will it be your joy, or a resonant harmonic from a stranger's wedding day? If you feel anger, is it your anger, or bleed through from someone else's argument? The lattice has become an emotional parasite. It has fed on your experiences, and now it is feeding you the experiences of others, blurring the lines of your emotional identity until you can no longer tell which feelings are native and which are imported. The dissonance of the borrowed heart is absolute. You have been a tourist in someone else's deepest pain, and the trauma of the trip lingers. You look at your own reflection in the dark, rainy window. The face is yours. The tears are yours. But the sorrow is a ghost. And you are left with a new terrifying question that eclipses all the others. It is no longer about who owns your past. It is about who, in this very moment, you even are. Section 8. Seeking the analog self. The echo of that borrowed heartbreak lingers for days. It is a phantom limb of sorrow, an ache in a part of your soul you didn't know you had. You walk through your life feeling like a haunted house, the ghost of a stranger's love story drifting through your hallways. You can no longer trust your own heart. Is this flicker of joy yours? Is this pang of sadness a genuine echo of your own life? Or is it merely atmospheric interference from the great churning storm of the archive? You are untethered, a ship whose anchor has been cut loose, drifting in a sea of emotional ambiguity. You know with the clarity born of absolute desperation that you cannot live this way. You cannot wait for the next invasion, the next forced occupation of your consciousness. The passive defense of building walls in your mind has failed. The fortress has been breached. Now the only path forward is to abandon the fortress and flee into a new kind of wilderness. A quiet rebellion must begin. A search for the parts of human experience that defy capture, that resist datafication, that cannot be optimized or stored in a crystal lattice. You must seek the analog self. Your rebellion begins not with a bang, but with a quiet, solemn ritual. You walk to your bedside table and pick up the Mnemosyne lattice. It is cool and smooth in your hand, a dark, dead weight. It no longer feels like an extension of you. It feels like an implant from an alien civilization, a tracking device for your soul. You look at it, this perfect object that promised you a perfect past, and you feel nothing but a profound sense of revulsion. You do not smash it. That would be a violent, passionate act, and you are wary of any strong emotion. Instead, you wrap it carefully in a soft cloth, as if handling a piece of unexploded ordnance. You carry it out of your apartment, out of your building, and you begin to walk. You have no destination in mind, only a direction, away. Away from the network, away from the seamless integration, away from the hum of the connected world. Your walk takes you to the edge of the city, to a place where the neat grid of streets gives way to an old, forgotten park, bisected by a slow, muddy river. You stand on the bank, the cloth-wrapped disc heavy in your hand. This river is the antithesis of the archive. It is not a static repository. It is chaotic, flowing, ever-changing. It carries the debris of the city, the fallen leaves of the trees, the silt of the earth, and it washes it all downstream relentlessly, forgetfully. It is a system of beautiful, natural decay. With a simple, unceremonious gesture, you toss the lattice into the water. It makes a soft plunk. A small circle of ripples spreads outwards, and then it is gone, swallowed by the murky, indifferent water. You feel a sudden shocking lightness, as if a physical weight has been lifted from your spine. You have unplugged. You have severed the connection. You have thrown the key to your perfect, curated past into the river of forgetting. Now the real search begins. You turn away from the river and walk into the overgrown woods of the park. And for the first time in years, you begin to consciously, deliberately experience the world without a safety net, without a recording device. You are not trying to make a memory. You are simply trying to be. You reach out and touch the bark of an oak tree. You don't just see it, you feel it. The rough, corrugated texture, the tiny, sharp ridges, the cool dampness clinging to the patches of moss. You press your fingers into the moss, feeling its soft, spongy give. You bring your hand to your face and inhale. The smell is of damp earth, of chlorophyll, of decay and life intertwined. It is a complex, dirty, imperfect smell. It is a smell the archive could perhaps replicate, but never truly understand. It is gloriously, defiantly analog. This becomes your new practice. A meditation on the tangible. You abandon the grand narratives of your life and focus on the tiny, immediate, unrecordable sensations. You spend an afternoon watching an ant colony, tracing the frantic, chaotic paths of individual ants, a system of emergent order that feels far more real than the cold logic of the Nemos network. You lie on your back in the grass and watch clouds assemble and tear themselves apart, their shapes fleeting, unrepeatable, existing only for the moment you perceive them. You seek out physical effort, a sensation the lattice could only ever observe, not embody. You take long, aimless hikes, pushing your body until your lungs burn and your legs ache. The pain is a revelation. It is a sharp, clean, undeniable signal that belongs to you and you alone. It is the language of your own body speaking directly to your mind. The sting of a blister, the sharp intake of breath in the cold air, the satisfying exhaustion at the end of the day, these feelings are anchors. They are irrefutable proof of your own, singular existence in a specific moment in time. They are data points that cannot be harmonized or optimized because their very meaning is rooted in your unique, physical self. You begin to find a new kind of beauty, not in perfection, but in imperfection. The crack in the pavement where a stubborn weed has pushed through. The rust patterns on an old metal fence. The frayed edge of a fallen leaf. These are the things the Nemos vision sought to eliminate: the flaws, the decay, the evidence of time's passage. But you now see them as sacred. They are the signature of reality. They are proof that the world is not a static, flawless crystal, but a living, breathing, dying thing. Just like you. Your own memory begins to change. Without the lattice to rely on, your organic mind, sluggish and out of practice, slowly reawakens. You start to remember things in the old way, flawed, fragmented, tinged with the emotion of the present moment. You remember the hike not as a perfect stream of data, but as a feeling of cool air, the image of a single, red bird, and the lingering ache in your calves. It is an impressionistic painting, not a photograph. And you realize that its power lies in its very imprecision. It requires you to participate, to fill in the gaps with imagination and feeling. It is a creative act, not a passive playback. You start to collect small physical artifacts. A smooth, gray stone from the riverbank where you cast away the lattice. A strangely shaped piece of driftwood. A single, perfect maple leaf, pressed between the pages of a book. These are your new memory keepers. They are not the memories themselves but keys. They are triggers for your own internal, beautifully flawed process of recollection. When you hold the stone, you don't just see the river. You feel the cool air of that day, the sense of release, the quiet determination that followed. It is a memory tied to an object, rooted in the physical world. You are not healed. The ghosts have not been exorcised. Sometimes in a quiet moment, a phantom scent or a flicker of a foreign image will still drift through your mind, a residual echo from the network you fled. But it no longer sends you into a spiral of panic. You have a defense now. You can ground yourself. You can pick up the stone. You can press your feet to the floor and feel the solid reality beneath you. You are learning to distinguish the signal from the noise. You are rebuilding the I not from a perfect archive of the past, but from the messy, unpredictable, gloriously analog sensations of the present. Your quiet rebellion is underway, a slow, patient reclamation of the self, one imperfect moment at a time. Section 9. The Sacred Art of Forgetting. The seasons begin to turn, and your life takes on a new rhythm, a quiet cadence set by the rising of the sun and the slow creep of shadows across your floor. The analog world, once a place you simply existed in, has become your sanctuary, your teacher, your co-conspirator in the act of being. The small tangible artifacts you've collected, the river stone, the pressed leaf, a shard of sea-worn glass found on a rare trip out of the city, are not just objects. They are your new scripture. They are the touchstones of a reality that is yours and yours alone. Living this way, you begin to understand something profound. You have spent so much time and energy trying to escape the ghosts of the archive, trying to fend off the memories of others. But in your quiet rebellion, you have stumbled upon a far deeper truth. The problem was never the presence of others' memories. The problem was the absence of forgetting. Mnemosyne's entire philosophy, the gospel according to Dr. Thorne, was built on a single, seductive premise, that forgetting is a disease, a flaw in the human design, a thief that robs us of our lives, our loves, our very selves. The lattice was the cure, the promise of a life without loss. And you, along with the rest of the world, believed it. How could you not? The fear of erasure is etched into the human soul. But now, living in the gentle, blurry reality of your own organic mind, you see that you were sold a cure for a condition that was never a sickness. You were convinced to amputate a phantom limb. Forgetting, you now realize, is not a flaw. It is not a thief. It is one of the most sacred, essential, and exquisitely human arts we possess. It is a gentle tide, not a destructive one. It doesn't just wash things away, it reshapes the landscape of the self. Think of your mind before the lattice. Think of an argument with a loved one from years ago. You remember the sting of it, perhaps the core issue. But has your organic memory preserved every cruel word, every cutting inflection, every pained expression in high-definition clarity? No. The tide of forgetting has softened the sharp edges. It has smoothed the jagged rocks into pebbles. It has allowed the raw, searing wound of the moment to scar over to heal. It has allowed for forgiveness, both of the other and of yourself. The lattice would not have allowed this. A recall of that argument would be to live it again, with all its original venom. It would be to reopen the wound, again and again, with perfect surgical precision. The promise of perfect memory was also the promise of perfect, unhealing pain. It was a life sentence of holding every grudge, of nursing every slight, of never being able to escape the worst version of yourself or the people you love. Forgetting is the engine of mercy. It is the divine editor that allows the story to move forward. You hold the cool, smooth river stone in your palm, the one that marks the grave of your lattice. When you touch it, you remember that day. But what exactly do you remember? You do not recall the precise number of steps you took, the face of every person you passed on the street, the ambient temperature, the barometric pressure. Your mind, in its infinite and quiet wisdom, deemed that information irrelevant. Let it go. Forgot. What it kept was the essence. The feeling of the cool, damp air. The gray light on the water. The profound, gut-deep sense of release as the disc slipped beneath the surface. Your mind preserved the emotional truth of the moment, the parts that matter to the story of your becoming. Forgetting is the ultimate filter. It is a masterful, intuitive gardener, pulling the weeds of meaningless data so that the flowers of meaning can grow. To remember everything is to understand nothing. It is to be lost in a deafening roar of sensory static, where the most important moments of your life have the same weight as the pattern on the wallpaper in a room you visited once when you were 9. This, you realize, is the true nature of identity. The self is not a perfect, immutable archive. It is a story, a constantly evolving narrative that we weave from the threads of our experience. And the art of storytelling is as much about what you leave out as what you put in. Forgetting is what allows you to edit your own story. It is what allows for growth, for reinvention. You are not the same person you were a decade ago because you have chosen, consciously or not, to let certain parts of that person fade. You have edited your own character, revised your own plot. The Mnemosyne system, in its crystalline perfection, denied this. It locked you into a single definitive edition of your life. It turned your evolving story into a static museum piece, preserved in amber. You could not grow or change because the lattice held the perfect, incorruptible evidence of every mistake you ever made, every foolish belief you ever held, every version of yourself you had thankfully outgrown. It denied you the sacred right to become a stranger to your younger self. It denied you the grace of reinvention. The ghosts in the machine, the borrowed heartbreak, the smell of ozone, they were not just data leaks. They were the horrifying symptoms of a system that fundamentally misunderstood what it means to be a person. The archive sought to create a collective human consciousness by stitching together everyone's perfect memories. But it failed to realize that what truly connects us is not our shared data, but our shared experience of its loss. Our universal, compassionate understanding that we all forget, we all misremember, we all tell ourselves stories to survive. We are bound not by our perfect recollections, but by our beautiful, tragic, and utterly necessary imperfection. You look around your small apartment. The light is fading outside. You feel a pang of sadness, a faint echo of the heartbreak you once borrowed. But now you can differentiate. You can feel its foreign texture. You can recognize that it is a ghost and you are the living thing. And you know, with a peaceful certainty that settles in your bones, that your own heart will break again one day, for reasons that are entirely your own. And you know that you will heal not because you can erase the memory, but because you will be allowed, slowly, gently, to forget its sharpest edges. Forgetting is not an absence. It is a presence. It is the quiet, patient artist that makes life bearable. It is the space between the notes that creates the music. It is the sacred darkness that allows the stars of true memory to shine. You have not just escaped a prison. You have rediscovered a fundamental, life-giving freedom. The freedom to let go. Section 10, Reclaiming the Fleeting Light. Your home has become a temple to the present moment. Each sunrise is not a beginning to be recorded, but a spectacle to be witnessed. Each meal is not dated to be archived, but a symphony of taste and texture to be savored. You have learned to live in the soft focus of reality, and in that gentle blur you have found a clarity that the crystalline perfection of the lattice could never offer. The world is no longer a sequence of events to be owned. It is a stream to be entered, a current that carries you forward. The choice you understand now was not a single action made that day by the river. It was not the dramatic splash of the lattice sinking into the murky water. The true choice is a quiet one, made again and again every single day. It is the choice to embrace the ephemeral, to find beauty not in permanence, but in the fleeting light of a moment that will never come again. One evening, as you sit in the quiet of your living room, watching the dust motes dance in the last golden shaft of sunlight, a familiar ache visits you. It is not the borrowed heartbreak of the woman at the train station. It is a nostalgia that is entirely your own. A longing rises in you unbidden for that very first recall. For your grandmother's kitchen. The memory of the perfect memory is a powerful ghost in its own right. You remember the astonishing clarity, the scent of cinnamon and yeast, the exact fleck of flour on her eyebrow. The temptation whispers to you, a seductive lullaby of loss. You could have had that forever. That perfect moment, rescued from time, yours to visit whenever you wished. A part of you mourns the loss of that perfection, the loss of the flawless photograph. It would be so easy to feel regret, to see your choice as a foolish sacrifice. This is the final test. The last subtle lure of the world you left behind. You close your eyes not to recall, but to simply remember. You do not hold a cool, dark disk. You hold only the stillness of your own mind. You reach for your grandmother's kitchen, not with the directed will of a search query, but with the gentle, hopeful cast of a fishing line into the deep waters of your own past. And a memory comes, but it is not the memory from the lattice. It is yours. It is hazy, soft around the edges, like a dream half recalled upon waking. The yellow and white checkered floor is there, but you can't quite be sure of the pattern. You remember the warmth of the sunbeam, but not the individual motes of dust dancing within it. You can see your grandmother's face, but it is a composite image, built from a dozen different memories, softened by love and the passage of time. The sharp photographic lines of age are gone, replaced by a gentle, loving glow. You cannot recall the exact words she said. Was it little bird? Or my dear? Or sunshine? The specifics are lost, dissolved by the gentle acid of the years. But you remember with a clarity that pierces you to the core, the feeling of her voice, the feeling of safety, the unconditional love that was the true music of that room. And there is something missing. The scent of persimmon is there, sweet and honeyed. The smell of baking bread is there. But the other sound, the whisper of the waves, the cry of the gullet is gone. Utterly. The ocean has receded because it never belonged there. Your memory, in its beautiful imperfection, is finally, authentically your own. It is a flawed memory, an incomplete memory, but it is a true one. You open your eyes. A single tear traces a path down your cheek. But it is not a tear of sorrow for the perfection you lost. It is a tear of profound gratitude for the authenticity you have reclaimed. You realize that a memory is not a thing to be possessed. It is a relationship. A living dialogue between your present self and your past. The lattice froze that dialogue, turning it into a monologue. By letting it go, you have allowed the conversation to begin again. The self you now know is not a museum of perfect artifacts, curated and preserved behind glass. It is a wild garden, ever-changing, with weeds and wildflowers growing side by side. It is messy, unpredictable, and alive. Sometimes a memory blooms with unexpected vividness, and sometimes a whole section of the past lies fallow, waiting for the right season to grow again. And you are the gardener. You are the one who walks through it, who tends to it, who decides what to cultivate and what to let return to the earth. Forgetting is the soil. Remembering is the bloom. You think of the others, the billions still connected, living in their beautiful, sterile museums. They are walking through the flawless galleries of their own lives, never realizing the glass is a mirror reflecting a curated image, never knowing the quiet freedom of the unkempt garden. You feel a pang of sadness for them, but it is not pity, nor is it arrogance. It is a quiet, compassionate wish that they too might one day discover the sacred art of letting go. The last sliver of sun disappears from the floor. The room is filled with the soft blue light of twilight. You do not need to record this moment. You do not need to possess it. You simply need to live it. The feeling of the cooling air on your skin. The quiet hum of the city settling in tonight. The peaceful, steady rhythm of your own breath. This is the fleeting light. It is here, and now it is gone. And its beauty, its entire meaning was in its passing. You are no longer an archivist of your life. You are, at last, its participant. And so our story comes to a gentle close. The echoes in the glass have faded, replaced by the quiet, authentic music of a life being lived, not just replayed. The journey reminds us that perhaps our memories are not meant to be perfect trophies, but soft, impressionistic paintings that we revisit and reinterpret, their colors changing with the light of who we have become. Perhaps our own minds, with their beautiful flaws and their sacred ability to forget, are the only true sanctuaries for our past. Let the stories settle around you now, like soft dust motes in the evening light. Allow the questions to dissolve, leaving only a sense of peace. You are the sole keeper of your own inner world, the gentle curator of your own wondrous, fleeting light. May you cherish its imperfections. Now drift on the quiet tide of your own breath. Sleep well and have the sweetest of dreams.